It was kind of a stress, it wasn't even stress, but it was like an actual physical reaction. Like I was starting to feel like a little dizzy even, and I just wondered like, am I just like totally over stressing about this?
We normally spend over 40 hours to make a single video on this channel. So we wanted to find out what happens when we cut it by, say like 80%. Well, we did an experiment to find out, and turns out anyone can make a video in 8 hours, but the real question is, can we make a video that actually compares to our typical quality? So we wanted a few parameters on this so that it would be as accurate as possible, not only to the quality of our typical videos, but also to what it would be like for you if you're trying to make a video. You don't have a whole team likely, so we decided to have only one of us make the video. Nathan took on the challenge, and I also gave him some other parameters. So one of them was that his average view percentage had to be at least 37.5, and the video had to be at least 7 minutes. So let's start from the beginning. How were you feeling like the day before the challenge?
Honestly, I was excited, but I was really, really nervous. That night, that evening before, when I went to bed, I was like, oh man, tomorrow's gonna be a long day. And then when I woke up and then came in, we started really early. I got in at like 6 and then started at 6:30. And those 30 minutes before I started, I was starting to get really, really extra nervous.
And when we talked yesterday, he was a bit nervous, but I want to see how he's feeling now that he's got started. Yeah, in a way that seemed like the most scary part because you didn't have any idea even what the topic was going to be. Although for me, I will say it got scarier real fast. So we're going to get to that in a second. So things started off strong for about 40 minutes until the first check-in. We decided to do check-ins every 30 minutes, right?
I think I'm hoping to have everything up until filming done around 10. It's 6:30 now. That gives me 3.5 hours to ideate, brainstorm, get an outline, maybe script together, and then film.
And you gave me a heart attack at about the 40-minute mark because I walked in. Well, you tell him. You tell him what you did.
Okay, so when I got in and I just started, we started the timer essentially, and I had to start ideating. And I was planning on using a tool to start ideating, and I couldn't get the internet to work. And so I just had to start coming up with some ideas on my own. And one of the ideas that I came up with was one that was going to be a ton of work. Had a couple hiccups, but everything's cooling down now. I feel like I'm gonna get into a groove. I decided to do a big video where I was going to review over 200 thumbnails. But again, I only had like a few hours to do research. And so it was just, I could have chosen a way easier video, but I thought if we're gonna make a challenge out of it, might as well make it hard.
Do you mind sharing your idea or is it top secret?
I'll share it.
Okay.
I reviewed 200 thumbnails. Here's what's working now.
Ooh,
so
which requires research time.
A lot of research gonna be happening in the next 2.5 to 3 hours. I'm hoping to review somewhere between 200 and 500 thumbnails. And then
so I come in thinking, I wonder if he will even get this video done on time. Like he's doing all of the planning himself, he's doing all of the research himself, and he's doing all of the editing himself. This takes us typically over 40 hours between 3 or 4 of us.
Between 3 of us.
Yes. And then he's trying to do it all himself, which he's not even used to things like editing or thumbnails very often. And I walk in, he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be reviewing and analyzing over 200 thumbnails. I'm thinking, what are you doing? So I tried to just take a deep breath and let his problems be his problems. And
you hit it pretty well. If you were concerned, you hit it very well.
Oh, good. I didn't want to add extra stress. Also, the internet thing is just such a good example of things that can go wrong. Like we have slow internet sometimes,
but it is very rare
that our internet just doesn't work here. I don't know. That was pretty coincidental, I think.
I've never had that happen. I come in early all the time, so it wasn't even that. I don't know why I couldn't get the internet to work. I don't know if it was a specific tool that I was trying to use or what, but I have to admit, it added to my stress, but I think it ended up really pushing me in the direction to do something a little more difficult because I went into it trying to find a really easy idea, and then I realized like, I'm gonna need a really good idea to make this video perform like I want it to perform.
All right, some good points there. So you did the research, you did some initial like storyline footage, and then you got to editing, right?
Well, not quite. I think I told you I was editing, but I actually wanted to get started on the thumbnails. Although I did some research for the video and some ideation, I also wanted to plan the thumbnail and title early on so that I could get the packaging right. Again, if I can't even get people to click on the video, how can I expect to get a 37.5 average view percentage? So I knew that the thumbnail and title, again, since I don't have great design skills, I knew that the idea just had to be killer. And so I decided to work on that. I was supposed to get editing, I think around 9:30 or 10 a.m. p.m. I didn't start editing until 11.
Gosh, I knew you were hiding something. I
Yeah.
could tell when I was checking in. You're like, oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I was panicking. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And did that add to the quality of the video? Do you think that you had all of that extra stress, or do you think it maybe made it worse?
I think it really, really helped. I knew that I had very little time, so I could only focus on the things that mattered. I'm ready to film. I am definitely running a little bit behind schedule because I really need to start editing at 10, and that's in 21 minutes. So
yeah, they seem like big things, but if you're only doing these really important pieces, I can see how that would move the needle enough and then also save you time on all the little things. Okay, but let's go back for a second. So you started editing at 11. The challenge was supposed to be over at 2:30. And how long does an edit usually take you?
well, it kind of just depends on the type of video for me, but like a talking head with lots of B-roll elements, honestly, probably 3 to 4 hours minimum. Just and again, these are like simple edits. Any of you guys who actually watched the video will know that my edits were fairly simple, but I think they got the point across.
For some added context, we decided that we were going to publish this video kind of no matter what, which I think is probably a lot of where all your stress is coming
That
from.
totally made a big difference. But to be fair, I think that helped the video be better. If we had decided that we weren't going to publish the video if it was bad, then there was no incentive for me to do a good job. And so, although it was a little bit stressful for a few hours, I think it totally made a big difference.
Yeah, good job. All right, so we published. How are you feeling that morning?
I was definitely refreshing, just seeing where it was at. The video started off as a 5 out of 10, which I was honestly happy with. That was about where I hoped it would land. And
That's where you needed it.
That's where I needed it to land to pass the test. But then it started climbing. It ended up climbing to a 2 out of 10. And I think as of recording this, it's a 3 out of 10. I haven't checked.
Yeah, I think it's bouncing back and forth between 2 and 3.
So overall, I'm pretty happy with the performance. I can't complain. I think to me, it just reminded me that we don't always have to do things the exact same way. I do think there were some things that we were lucky with in this scenario where it just happened to work out. So it's definitely worth thinking about what you're going to be putting in your video and the outlining and the scripting. But sometimes, as creators, I think sometimes when we are super concerned about the performance of the video, we do tend to overthink a little bit.
What are other takeaways from this challenge?
We will work on thumbnail concepts together as a group, which I think is great. And that's the other thing is it just reminded me how nice it is to have someone to bounce ideas off of, which is what we typically do. Because like my whole scripting process probably was like 30 minutes of that 8 hours. Like it was really, really short. And I think that's part of the reason I wasn't able to really emphasize the point that I wanted, is just that I didn't give it enough time. I would just kind of rush through it. So that was a really big takeaway. So for those of you who are out there kind of solo creating, if there's just anybody in your life that you could, connect with, or anyone in your niche on YouTube that you could connect with to kind of work with and maybe mastermind with once or twice a month, it would make the world of difference on your channel. And I know that could feel really intimidating to reach out and find somebody like that, but I guarantee you your growth will just explode if you start doing that.
It's really good to have YouTube friends, and we also have a membership called Project 24 and an awesome community. But honestly, anyone in your life that understands what it's like to be a YouTuber will be such a help. So challenge yourself in different ways. See if you do better under pressure, or if certain steps are better done more quickly, and then other steps are better done with a little bit of breathing room. Also, you could try a reverse of this challenge. You could try to make a video in way more hours and way more effort than you normally spend instead of doing it in less. But if somebody is trying to do this challenge in about 20% of the time that they usually do it, are there any other tips you'd give to them?
Just figuring out ways that you can streamline the process, or maybe allot some time to something else that needs a little more time would be a great way to get started.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm glad it wasn't me that had to do it. And if you
You're
want to
next.
see,
You're next.
Oh, gosh. If you want to see the video that Nathan did, check it out here, and we will see you in the next one.